We'll segue a little bit into a new topic, different sport. We're going to shift away from basketball. This one is soccer related, football related, European. So this has been coming up. It just seems increasingly more common. We're seeing hair pulls happen in soccer. Obviously, it doesn't seem that far-fetched to see it happen in the women's game. We're actually also seeing it in the men's game. So I thought I'd bring it up because it is happening for men and women's soccer. But the big thing that is causing controversy is that a lot of the players who seem to be getting their hair pulled are players of color. A lot of them black players, they have braids, extensions. Also white players too with longer ponytails. But a lot of players of color are the ones that are getting their hair pulled. And the people who are doing the hair pulling have been white mostly. And so we're seeing a segment of fans online who feel like this is some sort of microaggressions. These white people just want to be grabbing at the people's hair. And then we've got other set of fans who are now saying, well, the hair is too long and we need to set minimum lengths. Like it needs to be in a bun or it can't be lower down your back. And that's the solution to this issue. And so I'm curious, because for me, I feel like, well, maybe I'll leave it open. I'm curious what you guys think about this issue that's happening. Because really, what we're seeing is a lot of players, defenders, they're trying to grab at the jersey. They're ending up grabbing at people's hair. And it's an automatic red card, by the way. Maybe I buried the lead. It's an automatic red card. And so naturally, we're seeing the people who are affected really mad because they're saying it wasn't intentional. And then we're seeing other people, it's like, well, why are you putting your hands there? So I'm curious to hear, what do you guys think about this topic?
This is this something that's just been happening recently, or is this because I've never heard of this before? Is this something that's been always happening in soccer, or this is just something that's a recent phenomenon?
It's happened, but it's increasing more, especially because referees have been told to crack down on it. They were told to crack down on jersey pulls, and jersey pulls is supposed to be automatic yellow if you're disrupting play. But because we're now seeing hair pulls, then you elevate it. So if a jersey pull is a yellow, the referees say hair pull should be an automatic red. And so I think because of the crackdown, because of VAR, we're starting to see it more often because it's getting caught on video review.
Okay, and then one more question. So you said it's also happening in the men's game. I've never seen that in a men's game before. So is this more predominant in the women's game because women naturally have longer hair, and just a few cases in the men's game, or is it?
It's not newer cases. It for the men, it's men with longer hair. Happened to a player on Chelsea, Cucurella. He has this really big hair. He got his hair pulled. We're seeing black players who have longer braids, dreads. Their hair is also being pulled. But yes, it is more common in the women because the women, of course, have the long extensions. We remember, I can't remember the player's name in the WNBA. Her wig came off, right? Like it can happen. It
Talia
can happen.
Copper.
Kalia Copper.
Like copper. So yeah,
Okay, so again, last question. And you're saying that this is happening predominantly or all the time from the Caucasian persuasion to the non-Caucasians? Is that what you're suggesting or
not
claiming?
all the time, not all the time, but the recent ones we've seen, it just so happens that it's white defenders and the players who are getting their hair pulled are players of color, is what's happening.
But there has been cases where a black player that you know of has pulled a white player's hair, you know of.
I can't think of a black player that's pulled a white player, but I've seen white players pull other white
Yeah,
players' hair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, Vincent, what you got? I just needed to get some understanding of it
That's what I wanted to
first.
know. I wanted to know if where the where the white player's hair is being pulled, who's pulling it? If it is it was it a black player or was it also a white player? So it could just be that maybe the people who and also are there uh multiple time offenders, right? Like is it like some of the same players that are the ones that are keep doing it, or is it always a different player, but they just typically always happen to be white?
Yeah,
Um,
the latter. The latter.
okay. All right. I mean, it doesn't look good. I mean, it looks like, especially when you're talking about European soccer, we already know the issues that that game has, especially with the fans as well. But in those pictures, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, why is your hand there? Like you said, Like if you're defending, why are you like in one of them? You could clearly see the defender's arm was fully stretched out and holding the hair, and it's like, well, why are you trying? What were you trying to accomplish if not pulling the player's hair? What else were you trying
Yeah.
to do? How do you defend that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So it looks by those pictures, it looks like they're doing this purposely. And then it's like, okay, so but I can only assume if the players are playing with long hair, that that means that there isn't currently a rule against playing with long hair, right? So then the people who are trying to blame the people whose hair is getting pulled, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, why? He's saying there's no, he's like, well, you need to put in hair length minimum. Why? Why not just not pull people's hair? How hard is it to not pull somebody's hair? I don't understand that. Why is that your default? Your
Yeah.
default is, well, wear your hair shorter. Like what? Why? There's no rule for that. Although I have seen like people who have long straight hair will often play like in a bun or they'll put their hair up. So I assume they're doing that so that maybe their hair doesn't get pulled or their hair doesn't fly around as they're running. But if there's no rule against having long hair, then I don't understand why that would be the thought process. I feel like don't pull hair.
No pull hair. I
Yeah.
this is it's my first thought was because I haven't seen it. I've watched women's soccer for many years. Obviously, I'm not an expert, and this is something I've never seen. So my first thought was it's accidental. Maybe somebody's running past you and they're too fast. You want to hold them up a little bit, and you accidentally get a handful of hair. Happens in football when they got the dreads in their helmet. It happens sometimes. You try to grab their jersey and you grab their hair and pull it back. Obviously, you can decapitate somebody that way, so it's very dangerous. So it happens in football, and also football that it's against the rules, and you're gone right away, or you get a serious penalty. Soccer, where there isn't supposed to be pulling and holding and shoving, not to that level, you shouldn't be so handsy. First of all, especially that above the shoulders, it shouldn't be like that. Um, so when I looked at the pictures, when Vincent brought it up, I looked at the pictures and I'm like, oh, these pictures look really bad. The pictures look like, yeah, I got a handful of hair, and it looks like they're doing it on purpose and they're pulling them down. So then I say, as a competitor, you're competing, you're playing in the fog of the game. Maybe you accidentally just try to hold somebody up and you end up pulling their hair. And again, it's women, so their hair are longer, so it's easier to get some of their hair and pull them down. So, but the racial part, I'm less willing to accept that this is a racial thing. I think this is more of a woman thing. Right? I think women are more prone to grab and pull things that they can grab, and they're not necessarily trying to grab the hair, but I feel like the hair is there and they're grabbing the hair. That's why I don't think they're saying, okay, well, this is a black player. Let me pull the black player's hair. We know the history of soccer, and we know soccer is very racial, and I get it. But I don't think that this is let me just pull the black player's hair, because I think, like you admitted, there are also white players that are also grabbing white players' hairs as well. So I think it's just, dare I say, maybe within the women's soccer, like that they're grabbing hair. Like, explain to me. You tell me if that sounds like an ignorant
I mean, it's
comment.
happening in men's football too. I watch women's football more or women's soccer more. And so I'm more aware of it. And there was a streak of like every week. It was like 4 weeks in a row it was happening. So it was constantly being talked about. And so that's why I thought about bringing it up. There is grabbing in soccer. It's not to like American football extent, but there is like grabbing, jostling, especially if you're a defender. And so sometimes it does make sense for your hand to be where it is. But some of the photos that I sent, you can see it's a player who's like far away and someone's outstretching their hands. For two of those photos, the players actually after the fact said they were going for the jersey and they just happened to grab the hair. Going for a jersey in and of itself is a foul. So it's not a good enough excuse. If you happen to get hair, I think it should still be a red card based on current rules. The race thing, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a racist thing, but I do think that the players of color may be more disproportionately affected because even the example you gave for football, you said dreads. You didn't say some way like so. So I think maybe players of color, depending on their hair, with a lot of the women in soccer, they have extensions. They have like long ponytails, and the white players who have had their hair pulled also have the longer ponytails. But we tend to see the really long ponytails with the black players who have like extensions, and so. I don't think it's racist, but I do think that especially if we're going to say we need to start putting in minimums, who are the players who are going to be most affected by this minimum length? Is it the players of color who are wearing extensions? Now you're telling them what they have to put in bobs? Like I think like we need to think I think I land where Vincent said is why is the way to combat this issue telling players who are getting their hair pulled that they need to change their hair? It should be you need to stop pulling at jerseys. If you
Yeah.
are saying you're pulling at a jersey and by accident you're grabbing hair, then you need to stop pulling at a jersey. Like you need to find other ways to defend. I think that should be it. I don't think it should be you should be putting in minimum hair lengths because you're punishing the players who did nothing. They did nothing wrong.
So would the minimum hair lengths not solve this problem?
But why is the onus on the player who's not doing the fouling to have to change?
It could be a uniform requirement. If they just say this is a standard uniform, we don't want hair past a certain length for safety. It's like it's like a pulled out jersey. Like, well, why do you have to have a? It's not that big of a deal, but it's just uniform. It's the rules. Tuck in your jersey as I want, and maybe if they set where your hair is not past a certain length, or maybe they could put their hair in the back of their top or something like that, so it's not blowing in the wind. Like maybe that's something they could put in. It'll help everybody and make the game better.
Yeah. So I don't like that idea just because I don't feel like in any situation where someone is being harmed, I don't think that the onus should be on the person who's being harmed to have to change their behavior so that you can stop harming them, right? Like
But
you're
how
harming
are they
me,
being harmed? How are they being harmed?
they're getting their hair pulled, right? Like they're getting their hair
But if
pulled. They're
but
getting
if their
harmed,
hair wasn't so
right?
long, it wouldn't
So,
get pulled. Like maybe if it was tucked in.
oh
That's
well,
why you don't have so much. You don't have that happening. Only guys that
if
have
she
like
wasn't
dreads
wearing,
or long
if
hair
she wasn't
get
wearing
their hair
that,
pulled.
if she wasn't wearing that short skirt, then she wouldn't have got in trouble, right?
Oh,
Come
those
on,
are those.
what are we doing?
Oh,
Like,
that's a
like
Oh, but you're
that's a
victim, but
different
you're
thing.
but
That's a
you're
different
victim
thing.
blaming.
it's the
But you're victim
same.
blaming, and it doesn't happen every week. So if it doesn't happen every week, then there are certain players who are causing these offenses. Every woman now shouldn't have to change their hair because a handful of players couldn't keep their hands down.
Yeah,
I
just
think if
stop
we're
grabbing
starting
hair.
multiple times a game, all this stuff, maybe. But it's still like one-offs here and there, but we're seeing it like weekly. So I think like, yeah, I kind of agree. What
Why
I
is it
could
weekly? Why is this happening?
no,
Why is there
it,
a pandemic? Like, what is epidemic? Like, what is going on?
an epidemic of hair pulls. I don't
Yeah,
know, but what I will say, I agree. I don't like the minimum hair length thing. I don't think because it doesn't exist in men's football. Men, there are always some men who have long hair too. So I
but
don't
it
like
isn't a problem in men's football.
it is.
But it's
It is.
happening though.
I
It's
just
happening.
watch women's football. I just watch women's soccer more, so that's why I can speak to it. But it is happening in men's soccer as well, including a couple of weeks ago, a player got a red card. So it is happening. It is happening. I will say I don't like the length thing, but I could see flexibility happen with the rules where they try and look at was the person's hand, is it with handballs? Sometimes they won't count it as a handball if your arms were close enough to your body that it was in a natural position is what it's called. And so I could see a situation a player's going up for a header, you use your arms to go up for a header. Maybe you're coming down. If your hand was in a natural placement and it happened to grab onto hair, I could see a rule change where they're like, okay, let's not just automatically call that a red card. But the pictures that I showed where they're reaching out, like Emmanuel, you looked at the pictures where they're reaching out. Why should the player with the long hair have to have her hair in a bun because someone's reaching out to grab. Like that's the ones where it's like that should be a red card. It shouldn't be the other player's responsibility to have to put their hair up. Because why is that person has no business reaching their hand out like that anyways. So they should always be the one that's getting the punishment, in my opinion.
Yes. No, they definitely should be punished. Like if you do that, you definitely should be punished. But I'm just saying that, like, that, especially since it's happening weekly now, that if you have long hair, this may happen to you unless they put in some rule, or unless they punish. Like, are these players? You said they're getting red card. Are they getting kicked out as soon as it happens? Maybe they have to increase the fines. Maybe they miss another game or something like that. Because every week, clearly,
Yeah.
people aren't getting the message. People aren't getting the message, and it's still
Make it a
happening.
harsher penalty.
Make it a harsher penalty,
Make it
right?
a
Like
harsher
it doesn't make
penalty.
sense to me.
And to your point, I think Abby, you said earlier, if they grab a jersey, you said it's a yellow card. So already, if you're trying to grab, that means you're already doing something that you shouldn't be doing, right? So you're trying to grab a jersey that's a yellow. To me, grabbing hair makes sense that would be an instant red. So just if it's continuing to happen, then yeah, make the penalty more severe to the point where it's like if you're a second time offender, now you're getting immediate red and you're missing the next game, because then people are going to get the hint like, okay, let me keep my hands to myself, or let me adjust the way I'm defending so that I'm not being put in these situations. Like it reminds me of when a few years ago, I think maybe 10 years ago or so now, when Draymond Green kept kneeing guys in the nuts, right? It's like the reaction wasn't, well, why aren't players wearing jock straps? The reaction was, why does this guy's legs keep going up there? You're defending. Why are you kicking up in the air? It doesn't make sense. So why are these people they're defending in soccer? Why are you reaching out to grab? Why are you doing that? Just defend. Play the game. You don't need to be reaching out to grab.
Why are the players putting their midsection by his knee? Like, yeah, obviously I'm just kidding on that, but
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah.
I hear your point. I hear your point with that.